This is the last Lumia flagship phone, the Microsoft Lumia 950 XL. It was released in 2015, but how is it using it in 2024? When it was released back at the end of 2015, it definitely wasn't perfect, and most of that was because of one big reason, and that is Windows 10 Mobile. Because this phone doesn't run on iOS or Android like most phones do, and it is a whole different user interface compared to other phones, and it's sad to see that you don't see a user interface like this anymore. It has live tiles which show you important information at a glance, so you don't have to open the app, so you can see for example the temperature of the weather in the weather app icon. Or your photos icon was a slideshow of your photos. So what was wrong with Windows Phone? The thing that definitely made a big difference was that it wasn't that smooth. Compared to the older versions, which was Windows Phone 8 and 8.1, Windows 10 felt a bit unfinished. Sometimes apps would crash, it felt a bit buggy, and sometimes it had some very long loading screens. It didn't feel as nice or consistent as the older Windows Phone 8.1. And that wasn't the only issue here. It wasn't only that it didn't feel like a finished product, but there was also an app problem. It only had the Microsoft Store, previously known as the Windows Store, and there were almost no apps on it. There used to be Twitter, WhatsApp and Facebook, however they weren't available after a while, and that was very annoying. So it wasn't even able to run most apps, and that was especially the case with the Google software. So there was no Gmail, no Google Maps, but also no Google Calendar, YouTube, and if there isn't a YouTube app you need to use the browser, which was definitely not amazing. But that doesn't mean it was a terrible phone. There were still some things to like here. It had a pure view Zeiss camera on the back. Unlike the previous Lumia 1020 that I talked about, this one only has a 20 megapixel sensor instead of a 41 megapixel one. It's also a bit smaller, but that doesn't mean that the output of the images is bad. Of course, smartphones these days have a lot more software that can make images look a lot better, but back then this was definitely one of the best camera phones, in my opinion. It could also shoot 4K video. The nice thing about the 4K video is that it doesn't look overprocessed. It also has a triple LED flash on the back, and it has an amazing feature in my opinion that you don't see on any other phones. When you take a picture with the flash, you can later adjust it in post. So you can turn it off, on, or set anything in between it. It also had full manual control, so if you swipe to the left, you can get all full manual controls. So this is for example your ISO, shutter speed, but also focus. And the lens also allowed for very close focusing, so you could get some very nice macro shots. I also love the symmetrical design on the back with a nice large camera. The ports are also centered instead of having them on another side. And this was the first phone with Windows Hello. That was a facial recognition feature where it would scan your iris to unlock the phone. And it uses dedicated sensors for it. However, the disappointing thing is that it wasn't that fast. A fingerprint sensor would have been a lot quicker, whereas this face unlock was still in beta and it always took a while for it to unlock. This phone also has USB-C, and back then you didn't see that, but nowadays you see it a lot more often. It had a feature where you could turn it into your PC. Just connect the Lumia to a dock, and then the dock to a monitor. And once you do that, you can use a keyboard and mouse, and it really felt like your PC. But the only downside is that it was running on a phone and they didn't really fully develop it. You could do stuff like writing Word documents or using a full desktop browser, but they sadly don't have any advanced features like multitasking, and you can't install any programs on it. Only a few limited apps from the Windows Store would work. So the idea was amazing, but the execution wasn't there. I think the design of the Lumia 950 XL looks very nice, however it isn't anything special. It's nothing terrible, but for a phone that was expensive back then, it's definitely nothing amazing. Also the speaker on the back is pretty terrible. However, the audio recording on the Lumia was great. It had multiple microphones to get stereo audio, and you can hear in this sample that it sounds great. It also has a dedicated shutter button, which is a feature that I really miss on most phones these days. The 950 XL also has a nice big screen on the front, and it looks very well in my opinion. However, there's also stuff that's outdated, for example the browser, so you can't do that much with this phone anymore, but it's still a really cool phone. But I think it's amazing looking back at it. It's definitely a phone that was innovative for the time, and I just wish Microsoft would make Lumia phones again. Do you still own a Lumia smartphone, and what do you think of this model? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you so much for watching.